Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's summer, practically summer around where we live anyway. I always forget that people listening are never actually in our time zone or in Canada or wherever. I just say what the weather's outside every week. It's been getting better and better, so you guys can picture that. If you guys remember listening to this podcast like in winter, remember those good summer days? It's coming back, don't worry.
Yeah, coming back around. It's actually warm outside finally, so hopefully gonna get to do more outdoor stuff. But more importantly than the weather, this episode we do have a very special guest. Trey Joyner, aka NHP Shaka, is joining us for this episode.
What up? NHP Shaka, aka Trey, my common name. He, him pronouns, and I'm glad to be on the podcast.
Yeah, we got a lot of awesome Lancer stuff to talk about, and just RPG stuff in general, and representation in RPGs, and I want to get into all those awesome conversation topics. So I do want to get right into that, but this is going to be a bit of a shorter intro. But first off, we do have to do our current tradition, our weekly tradition of the weekly DM tip of the week.
Yes.
With the accompanying theme song.
Every time.
So, I don't know, Ramon, do you have a...
boys.
Or
okay.
Ramon, if you have one. I don't know, Trey, if you want to, like...
No. Oh, me? Oh, no.
Whoever happens to have one.
I have a Lance-specific, maybe Lance-specific GM tip, but
sure.
Otherwise, no.
Yeah, we did some Lancer ones, I think, last week or the week before, so...
Dope. Let me see. Don't put too many strikers on your NPC composition team. If you put too many strikers on your NPC team, it really wears down the players and makes them not want to play with you anymore. I put too many assaults and too many specters on a one encounter, first encounter over 3 encounter mission. And it really wore down the players. They were like, do they not use defenders or any other control type mech? I was like, oh, I fucked up.
This is the murder squad. Their sole purpose is to put people into the ground. Like
it is, yeah. I was like, Lancer's like different than like, D&D and stuff, because like it's about longevity and surviving with your resources rather than like, oh, this is a hard encounter.
Mm.
That is true. And I actually have a funny story about the first time I ever ran anything in Lancer. I think me and my buddy, we just like literally got like the beta PDF when we kickstarted it. And we're like, oh, cool, let's do it. Assault is the first NPC. Let's have 6 of them fight us.
Oh, God.
We're like, what is this game?
You're OG, Ramon. You funded at the Kickstarter? You're OG.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Long time fan. Oh, nice.
Sure. You know, I'm such a fan of Lancer. I don't know. Like, it's funny. I kickstarted it, and sometimes I'll buy the book again just because I'm like, you guys made me so happy. Please take more of my money. I mean, I'm glad I have money to spend. But yeah.
I think that's also a good GM tip. Support the games that you enjoy.
Totally. Good one.
Because I know there's a lot of places we can go and get those kind of books and stuff for free, depending on where you want to go on the internet. But I don't know. I think it's really important to actually support especially the independent creators, or the people who are making like settings and add-ons and stuff for books, because there's some people I know who do that, and it's like, I don't know. I would certainly feel awkward like stealing something from someone who I've actually had a conversation with, but just in general, I think it's important that you actually like go and support the things you're into, because that's what keeps them around longer.
Totally. No, even if like support's just like out of like, words of affirmation, like that's support too.
Yeah.
Like there's a new LCP that came out. It was I can't pronounce the name, but I think it's a German name. It just got listed on CompCon's like the community hub or whatever, and like went to their itch page. I was like, great job, man. Like I've never seen this on Reddit, and I'm glad you got a chance to release it. Like that stuff is a lot of work. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. I've been kind of going through stuff, and man, I'm a fan for real.
Of more. More?
Yeah, definitely. Like, man, it was like I don't know. It was funny because I was reading. Okay, wait, hold on. We're getting ahead of this. All right.
Okay,
Right.
well, let's Ramon, before we get into that, I guess let's properly start our interview section of the show. So again, what we really wanted to do is just sort of like have these conversations about Lancer, of course, and topics around Lancer, especially the community as well, which is something that I'm only like on the periphery of. But Ramon, I know you're into a bit more. Trey, you're definitely into a bit more. So that was something I also wanted to talk about. But yeah, I guess we could just start going into specifically Trey, like the add-on or the what you've written for Lancer right now.
Yeah.
The field guide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ramon, I don't know how we bring you into the not Ramon, Calvin. I don't know how we bring you into the fold, but you know, we got to bring you into the fold somehow. So, you know,
see, this is my thing. Is like I have a couple games that I'm like really into and know my way around very well, but like Lancer is really moving up there. Then it's like, I don't know. Am I gonna have to like push some other rule system out of my head for a bit? To memorize this one? But you know, CompCon's really helpful with that. So
totally, totally. Well,
like our last stream, I had like 2 to 3 tabs open with different CompCon pages. Yeah.
You guys did a really good job on that last stream, by the way. Before we, start, you guys did really good. I watched it. It was really good. I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
The submarine specifically was dope.
Oh, thanks.
That is full credit to Ramon.
The submarine. Yes.
Yeah.
My poor submarine. I was so sad that it got murdered so fast.
No, I feel that.
Yeah, them's the bricks.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, it was much fun. But yeah, Trey, like honestly, you like Field Guide to I'm terrible with Mfecane.
Yeah, it's like M is kind of like it's like a silent enunciation, like Mfecane.
Okay.
Okay, great. Oh, like almost like so I have a coworker and her last name is Ngombe, so it's kind of like that where it's like you get like the yeah. Okay, cool, great. I appreciate it. I'm probably gonna ask for a lot of pronunciations because you're setting it so one.
You could.
So yeah, let's
so rich.
Let's specifically talk about that because I know some people who are listening to the show might not know what Field Guide to Mfecane is. So yeah, how about you just like introduce us to what that is and maybe a bit of introduction to yourself as well.
Totally. Yeah. Southern dude, born in Atlanta. Got into RPGs pretty late in my life. I did a little year of AmeriCorps, and AmeriCorps is like the Peace Corps just for like centered in America and some like low income communities in America. I did that in Tennessee, and I had a friend who answered a Craigslist posting about a D&D group. And then we went to this random dude's house. It turned out to be a cook, and I started playing D&D, and I was like, yo, this shit's dope. Like, why haven't I played RPG games in like ever in my life? And I got really into that, and then I kind of started learning more about D&D, and one thing became like painfully apparent to me. There isn't a lot of representation of Black culture, but also just like the Black diaspora, like diaspora across the wide earth. And so I was like, well, you know what, I can't find myself spending so much time for this new hobby that I like if it doesn't represent things I think that are intrinsic to myself, or a better version of I think for me just like Black culture. And so I moved on from D&D after a couple of years, and my lost attempts of trying to port that over to my own kind of homebrew system, and went to like this Genesis RPG, which is like it's like a blueprint RPG that lets you build your own settings out of. But then I realized that it was like way too much work. But through doing that, I learned a lot about South African culture and like the Bantu people, and just all of that. And then a little bit about Shaka Zulu and the Zulu people. And so after a short stint with Genesis, I found Lancer, and I started just kind of using all that groundwork that I built through the Genesis RPG and my errant attempts at crafting my own homebrew settings in D&D to craft out Field Guide to Mfecane. And it's like a it's been like a process and a journey, because like I'm not South African, but like my parents and my family are like, descendants of West African um slave trade. So like it's not exactly like the same correlation. Like it's not really my culture. And so as I like dove deeper into like the history and some like the research I did to kind of port over some of the names and some of the concepts, I made sure to honor that culture, right? Like it's not mine. So like I want to make sure that, I honor it, although I am pulling from controversial topics, because the term Mfecane itself is very controversial in South African culture. And so I wanted to make sure that, while I'm moving forward, that I'm honoring it, and also like just shining, a light on that kind of history. So in that culture. So yeah, it's a short introduction, but yeah, my process and my journey to tabletop RPGs has been a odd one, I guess.
I mean, that's pretty cool that it all started from Craigslist. That's like an epic story.
I was gonna say.
Insert Craigslist ad.
Yeah, like, could you imagine just to be fair, like, thank God for that Craigslist ad, or else
I know, right?
I personally would not have your home camping setting.
Oh my God.
Now that I heard, it does, honestly, it feels like it's something you've been working on for a while.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like you're definitely coalescing a whole bunch of, notes and feelings and stories, like, all into this setting, which is fabulous. I found, again, I was doing a bit of research, trying not to read all of it, so I can ask you some questions. But it's like, more I read of it, the more I'm like getting drawn in, because you really have I should say, like a story telling narration to it, right? It really feels like you're like getting pulled in to the setting and really like getting like immersed into it. So when I say I'm a fan, I'm being truthful. Okay.
I appreciate it. No, man. I don't take compliments well, so like I just say like I appreciate it. And so if you can see me, I'm smiling right now. But yeah, it's like I'm not a great writer. I am partially dyslexic, and so it's like it takes me a lot to like put writing down on paper and make it make sense and like have like appropriate grammar and stuff. But I have a lot of like, I'm really creative and I have like a lot of thoughts, and like I dabble in drawing and just a whole bunch of other stuff. And writing's never been my medium, so it's been a real challenge for me to actually even put my thoughts down on paper. So yeah, it means a lot that you can actually legibly read what I have down there.
Well, this show is, pretty much all about complimenting each other. So
yeah,
no doubt,
you're gonna get a lot of that here. But I guess so. Like, what would you say is Field Guide to Mfecane? Just like, is it again, to describe for people who might not know what it is, or this is their first time hearing of it. I would assume by now people know what Lancer is from us talking about it multiple times. But like, what is the supplement that you've added here? Is it a setting or an expansion on like rules and stuff like that, or like how would you describe it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say it's an expansion on rules whatsoever. I think the Lancer rules, while a little overcomplicated in many areas, are perfect. As far as the setting itself, I think it's a gamified way of protest. I think the large majority of tabletop RPGs are very whitewashed and feature white culture or European culture, and even concepts and like the fact of building a character, the fact of like just like the mission structure, like in D&D and stuff, like all of it's like very indicative of European culture. While it's not bad, just the prevalence of it and the sole prevalence of it, I do feel is doing a disservice to people who play tabletop RPGs. And so to introduce Field Guide to Mfecane and the structure of missions in there and the type of storytelling and the types of like downtime actions or other things offered, I feel like introduces a different kind of thought process almost. But also kind of like if you go through and read it, like understand the background to it, like there's definitely some undertones of anti-colonialism and of a fight against anti-blackness too. So I think that's my main inspiration, is like writing it as a form of protest to the prevalence of tabletop, like European centric tabletop RPGs.
Right. Right, because that's definitely
definitely.
Yeah, like that's definitely is a large part of a lot of, especially like the fantasy RPGs. They tend to all draw from the same sort of like fantasy lore or mythology,
which isn't bad.
Yeah,
which isn't bad. It's like it's just that's all that's there, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's not like it's
exactly.
They're bad stories or anything like that. It's just it's kind of the same thing over and over again. You did actually mention earlier, sort of in passing, like studying other cultures when it came to writing this. I was wondering. I mean, I don't know this. That is something I've thought about, like with my own like RPG settings, because I've talked about some of my Pathfinder games on here before, and I went with sort of a very base like mishmash of like the typical European culture sort of thing. So something I was very interested in is like how do you go about introducing other cultures into your RPG setting, more so than like, because I was thinking it'd be more so than just like, you know, reading a Wikipedia page and then getting a name of
if we could only read Wikipedia and be excellent at writing everything, that would be great.
Yeah. Like I don't know, like I'm curious like what your I guess process for writing that sort of thing is. Like how do you go about studying something, and then how do you integrate it into your supplement that you've written?
Totally. Yeah. I'll just preface me speaking with I'm not a great researcher. I just do a lot of offhand, casual, like YouTube video watching, or just like random, you know, reading across the internet. Maybe some like tours of the places I'm kind of like YouTube tours of like the places I'm kind of taking inspiration from, because you never know what's gonna inspire you to write something particular. But for Lancer, like my process was, I think it was mainly for writing Field Guide to Mfecane, it was mainly wanting to, you know, write this field guide that has these notes of protest kind of riddled through them, but also like staying true to Lancer, right? Lancer has like a great core like narrative to it. It's like we're anti-fascist, you know, anti-colonialism. It's like easy to like kind of latch onto that. I think even in you know the times we are now, it's like a very relevant topic. And so like writing to that, right? You know, writing to that kind of those kind of concepts of anti-fascism and anti-colonialism, and then just interjecting like Afrofuturism into it. And I think, you know, Afrofuturism itself is a mishmash or a hodgepodge of like many African cultures, and you know, Africa's like freaking huge, and like there's so many different people. Like even in South Africa, there's like I can't even name all the groups that I had, like just random groups that I had, people that I had to look up. And right. So I think, you know, basing off the core there and just kind of, I mean, you know, going to Wikipedia honestly and looking up and reading about the Bantu people and the Nguni people, and then reading about, you know, some of the people that Shaka had during his amalgamation of the Zulu tribe had to conquer and stuff. It's just kind of like a spider's web of information you kind of have to, you know, tiptoe through, honestly.
Yeah, right, and like it's excellent because it's. I find that a lot of times it's like D&D and tabletop RPGs, like well, specifically D&D has curbed the representation in terms of like characters to being like, I guess, more diverse, but the actual like through line where you're trying to make that narrative has definitely just, their roots are really deep into that European fairy tale kind of magic, kind of like, you know, fantasy land, right? Like definitely there. And honestly, like it's to me, someone who's been playing, you know, D&D and stuff for like 10 years now, I guess, like it is tiring, right? And it feels so now that like D&D's gotten so much traction, it just feels like there's a lot of repetition, not even in tabletop RPGs, but like media in general now, since that all took off, right? Like how many you know, white dudes with swords do you see like having running around these days? Like so many of them. Like,
yo, white dudes with swords have filled my, you know, like inspiration for times to come. But when it's only white dudes with swords, then it's like a problem. Like, you know, like I get some swords, you know.
when the
Your
only
guy's a
inspiration
white
is
dude with
Lord
a
of the
sword. The
Rings.
bad guy's a white dude with a sword.
Yeah.
Like your friend's a white dude with a sword. Come on, man. Like this is. We could do more. Like there's so much more than white dudes with swords, you know. And
No, totally. Yeah.
but yeah, like oh, I totally get it, and I'm excited for more diversity. Like actually, I just backed a Native American, I should say, or
Yeah.
indigenous
Yep.
people, I should say, because I need to be more politically correct.
What's it called? What's it called?
I think it's Coyote and Crow.
Yeah. I saw that on like Twitter or something. I was like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah, Coyote and Crow, and I from the brief bit I read on it, it's definitely something that I wanted to contribute to. I wanted these guys to succeed, and they actually gave a you could also just buy a copy that will go to a sorry, I forgot what's it called. I think it's a reserve.
Yeah.
Reservation. Yeah. So you know they'll have the books. They'll have this role playing book in their public library, so anybody from that culture can just pick it up and like live the stories of like being like heroes, but also being attached to their culture instead of just being a white dude with a sword, right? It's just like I feel like growing up, like if you're a kid and you bust into that thing and you pick up the book, you're like, oh cool, what is this? And then you get to learn a little bit about your culture and keep that like alive, right? Because I feel like that's the thing. It's like we're so forward facing as like and like we might forget like what our past is, and we want to kind of bring that into the future with us. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that was like also like a good inspiration for like writing like the Field Guide. It's like while I'm not South African, like the overall like some of the concepts I draw from are like very indicative of like what it was like in antebellum South and like like early 1900s, 1800s, 1700s and stuff for like Black folks. And so like it's like I want to make sure that I'm writing a story that capitalizes on that, overcomes it, and shines as like a light for like other folks, other just whether you're Black or not, other folks who see this as a story for what it is and kind of feel inspired by it to either dive into their own things or just really dive deeper into like like Afrofuturism as a concept maybe.
Yeah. So I have to ask, when you started writing the Field Guide, where did you start from? Is it just like you couple together your narrative, or were you just like, I'm gonna make this cool mech based off of this person? Or like, where did you start? Where it was like, I know who the bad guys are, and then you're like, spin the story that way. That's what I want to know, because
that's a good question. I was reading this book by River Solomon. It's called Kindness of Ghosts. And it's a space story about these people who were put on a ship and they're traveling somewhere, some colony planet. And but these people, they're never described in the book as being Black, but they're Black. And they're pretty much just like slaves or indentured servants. And they're like indentured servants on the ship that's traveling for how many up to years to wherever they're going. And they get the worst treatment. They get on like the bottom deck level where there's no heating and like there's a whole bunch of bad stuff. So anyways, that's where I started. I wanted to write a story in Lancer that was like reminiscent of that antebellum South kind of like story. And I was like thinking like, all right, there's this story here, like how do they overcome it? But how do they overcome it in a way that like is very triumphant and is like, what is it going to take for these people who have been oppressed for so many years to organize and be able to like direct themselves in a way to just overcome the situation that they're in. And so at the time I was like playing a lot of Civilization 6 and I was like, yo, Shaka Zulu is dope. True. I was like, Shaka Zulu is dope as hell. And like there's just so much like written history that's easily accessible about like the Zulu people, and I've never like in the past never super been infatuated with like Shaka Zulu or Zulu people. There's like that old documentary that was produced by that British company a while ago. I guess it was like early, like 1960s or something like that. It's called Shaka Zulu, which is good, but that, you know, that's kind of how I became introduced to Shaka Zulu. But anyways, I was like, you know, Shaka Zulu would be dope as like an NHP if like, you know, if you read the Lancer lore, you know that Ra or whatever, Monosat, whatever it's called, it like showed up one day and then all the subalterns came alive or whatever. And then, you know, Monosat went somewhere else in the galaxy. And I was like, all right, well, what if Monosat like stopped by the ship that these people who were, you know, soon to be known as the Mfecane, and just like made their consciousness like a reality. And that's what Shaka is. Like, you know, the consciousness of
one.
that's what it is, -1. Yeah.
Yeah, -1, yeah. Had to go look it up.
Yeah, I forgot what it was. But yeah, Shaka is like the real the consciousness there.
So okay, so like you just mentioned, like so Shaka Zulu as an NHP kind of ties into something else I wanted to ask about. I guess kind of tying into Lancer as well. Like, how did you find why was Lancer the thing you wanted to tell this story through, and sort of like how Lancer affected how you want to tell that story? Like, I mean, like from. Did you come at Lancer first from the narrative of it, and you thought that would be an interesting way to tell the story, or like did the mechanics have something to do with it, or have the mechanics affected how you wanted to write that?
All narrative, all narrative. I had asked Kai Tave, who wrote the Field Guide to Mfecane, and Delilah, who wrote Grimson Sons, I think. I asked them like what their approach was.
I think so. Yeah.
I asked them what their approach was, and they said like, you know, they came at it for mechs, and like they're like, all right, you know, what society would exist around these mechs, and like I think mechs are cool and shit, like, right? But like I had like a burning desire to tell a story inside of myself, and I was like, I need to write something that's reflective of me. And then the mechs came second, right? The mechanics all are based off the narrative, and pretty much everything I do is in the Field Guide is based off some kind of point of narrative. Like even the mech systems and well, to some degree, like all of it's kind of based off like what would this look like, or Shaka's regiment of the Zulu and the Butho armies, like what would they look like as a core function of Lancer? And so yeah, it's been all narrative for me, and I think I've maybe made a few adjustments with the mechanics to fit the narrative, but mostly it's been narrative.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. It definitely feels that way because it paints a picture of like what I can say. It feels well organized. like all of the ideas are pretty well organized, and you kind of have like okay, so it's weird. Like I always find like all that, like, you know, field guides or homebrew settings or any type of settings is like, what can I like take from it? Am I able to just work with it? I'm able to just connect the dots and like weave my story into it, because that's all I see all these field guides are. It's like, you know, definitely you know, sorry, I'm bad with names. Can you help me pronounce no, not Kaitave. Your setting name.
Mfecane.
Mfecane. Yeah, you're obviously listeners to the show. I'm terrible with names. I forget them often.
Yeah, no, I'm used to it. Definitely.
It literally takes me months to remember names.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, from both perspective of GM and player, but yeah,
sorry, Calvin's such a blessing. He just writes everything down and remembers everything. So.
Oh yeah.
Mfecane, right? Like it's you know, it just feels like Mfecane like exists, right? It's like Soldan does exist in. That's why I love Lancer, because it's like all the homebrew settings don't have to compete with the main storyline, right?
Good point.
Like because it's so broad and there's literally, you know, hundreds of thousands of planets, right? Like you could have these homebrew settings there and just, you know, have your own stuff too in your own narrative, and just kind of I can dip my toe as far as I want into any of these settings and bring that in. And definitely for your Field Guide, it feels like there's a lot you can draw from, because everything is kind of connected. So, you know, even if it's like I just take an enemy type, right? I can definitely build a reason why that enemy type is there, and I could definitely build like, you know, a force behind it, a plot thread behind it. Why are they doing this? Like all those things are already kind of answered for me already, because you're so thorough. I find so, you know. dude,
Oh,
it's great.
yeah.
I
Yeah. I mean, I'll credit a lot to the players on Ukwa Station. Like, it's like when I started that last September, I don't think it was like, I was running like 3 games a week because I got a lot of inspiration from Interpoint Station, but like I didn't like Interpoint Station. Not because it's a great thing, but like it's like, again, like I didn't want to play in something that wasn't reflective of like who I was. And so I was like, I'm gonna write Oakwood Station and I'm gonna have this field guide. And I was like at like 2 sentences at that point. I was like, NHP is a shock is named Shaka, and I want to have a whole nother piece of space. And then I guess over the course of all that, like I've had my players help me play test NPCs and like vet the story. Like even in the field guide, there's some testimonials from like the players' characters. Like things like we said in like the chat, like the RP chat rooms that I've just like ported over and like thrown into the field guide. So I think it's a lot of it, like the core function of it, core idea of it was me, but like I've had a lot of help from many players on Ukwa Station. So like, super shout out to them.
Right. Yeah, so you just reached out to the Lancer community, like probably like on Discord, I'm assuming, like just like, hey, I'm running a bunch of stuff, come play my games. Everyone's like, yes.
Yeah. When I first did it, I'm still learning to be a good Lancer GM. When I first did it, I think I got like 30 players signed up, and then I did 3 games. We waited 2 weeks, and I did 3 games a week after that. And then we had like some pretty good games. I did not know how to make NPC composition, and so I killed one player, like their character, and then they quit the next day. And then a couple other like, this shit's too hard. Like, what are you doing, Shaka? Like, you're trying to kill us. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I had no idea. And so I definitely some growing pains about how to learn how to GM answer. But yeah,
totally understand that. I definitely have felt that. Before as well with all of my efforts to make a game that is both fun and exciting and not just complete bloodbath.
I know.
Right. So that's good. So like Calvin said, I put a little bit into the Lancer community, but you're kind of you've swam to the depths a little bit here. In general, I find that the Lancer community is spectacular. How have you found it? I mean, compared to maybe, I know you're very new to tabletop RPGs in general, but like communities in general, man, like how do you feel about it?
I think Lancer community is like pretty dope. Pretty dope. I think there's some bad eggs there. Eventually you'll run into some bad eggs. But like as far as like Twitter goes, Lancer community is dope. Once you get on PilotNet, sometimes you can run into some like boogers, just people who are uninformed or just plain out ignorant. And Reddit too, like the Reddit community of Lancer is also like really friendly and nice too. So yeah, I feel like they've been really receptive of like feedback and stuff. There's definitely tons of people on PilotNet willing to help you like write homebrew content or just kind of think through like your GM plot or whatever. So yeah, I thought it's been pretty good. And if I was gonna put a rating on it, I'd say 8.5. I think it's a new community.
8.5 out of 10. That's great. I mean, definitely.
Yeah, but I have no context, though, right? Like I don't know the D&D.
Well, hey, man. Honestly, 8.5 is good for me. That's when it's like I see a taco shop or something and Uber Eats is 8.5. I was like, we're good to go. I don't even put that much thought in. I put in my body, man. Like,
I do think it also kind of helps that it's a bit more of a it's not as large as the other communities. It's a bit smaller, so people who are there are very much more focused on this one specific thing. So there's less of a chance of like minor disagreements snowballing into something because the community is so large. Like there's more of a focus on this like specific setting or a specific game rather. That I think is a benefit to the community. And like again, every time I hear about the Lancer community, especially just the concept of like every supplement, every fan-made supplement can exist within the Lancer game, which is something I didn't immediately think of, but now just hearing it out loud is like, oh right, it's not like you're all competing for space. It's not like you're I'm playing in this setting, but we can't really do anything with this setting. It's just like you can bounce around different things and different aspects that people make that you can, bring into your own homebrew game or play in their own games, but maybe introduce something else from another supplement that someone has written.
Totally, man. Yeah. Diversity is better. We're all better because of diversity.
Exactly.
Diversity in narrative, and diversity in the people you play with around the table. Like, I love seeing some of the stuff that come out of like Field Guide To Mfecane. Like, there's players on Ukwa Station like, oh, Shaka, you gotta try this NPC, and I was like, it sounds really complicated, but I'm glad you want me to try it.
yeah, definitely.
Do you have to oh, sorry, Ron, did you want to?
Oh, go ahead, Calvin.
Oh no, just because of that mention, like I was just wondering, like, do you have to like worry about like game balance too much, or like NPC design too much? Like, how do you? I guess you just use like testing to mitigate that kind of thing, or?
Yeah. Like today, just I guess an hour ago, 2 hours ago, I did like a little test of one of my NPC mechs. It was it's called, I might butcher this, but it's Istawalan Gichi Gichi. It's an old South African like mythical creature that if you are like at home alone, it looks like a hyena, and it'll like go to your house and put you in its basket head and cart you off into the forest to presumably eat you, or I don't know, make babies with you.
That's a lot of effort to get somebody. I mean, just to eat somebody, you have to be in the head, then they come out and then eat you. I mean, I love it. I love it so much, but
yeah,
it reminds me of the Japanese yokai, where like it's like this is an umbrella with an eye. It's scary. Like
oh yeah. I know that one. Yeah, I'm going
right. Yeah. So
yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I tested that one today, and it was like hard to balance because like I'm not a great balancer. I think my strength is like the narrative and less about the mechanics of like my mechs and my NPCs. But yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to balance it and make sure that the whatever you're gonna do, whether it's like different license levels or like NPCs, it's not gonna throw the game off. And that has happened before many times on Ukwa Station. So
all right. Yeah, because I gotta imagine like when you're writing something like this, you don't, because you're not in front of the players as they're playing it. Because like if you're running your own personal game and you do something that say maybe makes the players a bit too powerful or a bit too weak, you can adjust on the fly because you're on the other side. You have the numbers of everything in front of you. You can modify those as you see fit. But after you've written something, it's pretty much in the hands of the players. So you do have to rely on that feedback to say if there's something that needs to be adjusted or something that just doesn't like fit for a certain group, like they just don't like the way that plays. Like I guess you don't really have a way to adjust that. So I don't know. That's one of my fears for writing content. I would always be like, what if people don't like this one specific thing? How do I?
Yeah.
I can't put myself over there, right?
Yeah. It's like kind of weird. It's like I don't know if you guys are like prideful. I think everyone's prideful, but like I'll write something and I know that shit will be broken, and then I'll play it. Well, like my players will play it, and it'll piss me off. But I'll just like not want to change it because like I wrote this shit. I must have been in a good mindset. Like I'm not gonna change this, but I know it's like not good.
I understand that completely.
Oh man, what was it? I think one of your mechs has like a chaff launcher, which was like I remember because I watched you also are running Wallflower right now, right? On your YouTube channel, right? I saw that. I saw like I checked out the episode. I think you were going up against well, I guess I shouldn't talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but it was very effective, I think, at one point.
It was good, yeah. Well, especially against the NPC there, it was like really effective against like the main new NPC that was in Wallflower. And speaking of the chaff missiles, this is very much in what I just said. I didn't change the mechanics. I just changed the name of the chaff missiles to make it make more sense. I changed adhesive chaff missiles. I was like, oh yeah, it's like sticks to your mech when you're fired, and I don't know. So yeah, I probably should change it.
No, it's fun. It's great. Definitely, just you should just make that instead of it being a player thing, you just give it an NPC that, and that would real piss them off.
Oh, and that'd be That'd be really mean. Yeah,
and you just laugh maniacally, and everyone will be mad at you.
I do enjoy my maniacal laughs.
Oh yeah, that's the key part of running a game.
Yeah, it's like the prerequisite of being a GM. It's like you gotta get the laugh down, or
right.
Okay. Yeah, I want to touch on how do you inject. I know we talked about like Afrofuturism, and to me, like that is like an aesthetic thing. Like for me, like I haven't really injected it into too much of my personal narratives that I create. But how do you kind of like exemplify that? Like I just want to know like where do you come from? Is it just like really getting artwork done, or is it more like I know you are heavily on the narrative. I mean, like obviously all we talked about previously in this podcast is like straight up like, this is where I'm trying to go with this, but I just want to get like a perspective of like what did you do?
Yeah, I'd say aesthetic is a big part of it, right? Like, it's got to look like a duck if it's going to quack like a duck. I would say the main core to like Afrofuturism is reclaiming a past that was either taken from someone or squandered, right? And reclaiming that past and then crafting a better future from it. And so I think in the case with like Field Guide To Mfecane, it's like reclaiming the past of like antebellum South and the oppression of Black folks and Jim Crow, and then envisioning a better future. While in the future that I envision through the field guide is a little harsh in ways, because Shaka is like the embodiment of like that rage that I think a lot of like Black folks have, but also like it's caveated by or juxtaposed to like the Mthitho, or like Shaka's or Mfecane is like political body that's more about securing peace. And if I was going to characterize the Mthitho, I would say like they're like Barack Obama, and Shaka's like Malcolm X. Like, I'm gonna take care of what needs to be taken care of, and then like the Mthitho are like, all right, we need to come to some type of agreement, because like continued war is like not gonna end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
right and
yeah,
I think that touches on a lot with the even the overarching narrative of Lancer in general, between like the difference between sec comp and third comp, right? Like where one was like, we show up with guns and you comply, or the other one's like, we probably shouldn't do that again. That was a bad
idea.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think that's a thing a lot of people can relate to, is just sort of the concept of like coming to an agreement with people either through peaceful ways or forceful ways. I think that's like an interesting thing to lean on.
Well, I struggle with that too. Like,
right.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think it's also of the times, I should say. I feel right now we have the perspective of the past that was. I mean, the present is still very violent, but the past was even more so, right? And I feel like the way that we're trying to steer the ship of everybody is to be a little bit more, finding a little bit more diplomacy and common ground, and really not like letting go of the wrongs, but trying to actually find a resolution than just keep the past going, right? Yeah, and that's like the feel. For sure.
Yeah, and it's like Lancer really, as a system and a setting, really impresses that upon, I think, GMs and players. If you play it by the book, now it's intended to be played. I think Wildflower is a good example of that. Like, there are some really difficult choices through Wildflower that can and will have like the players be like, oh, y'all are some colonists? Oh, y'all fucked. Like, bye. Like, who cares about you? Or they'll be like, all right, you guys are just people. Yes, you're colonists, and yes, you're imposing on, someone else's place, but like, you're still people and you need to be saved. So yeah, I think Lancer definitely does a great job of like invoking those kind of like those thoughts and those like that conversation, I think.
Yeah. I think tabletop RPGs are definitely a great way to sort of approach that topic, like, because it requires players and GMs and everyone involved, like they have to be sort of engaged with it in a way. Like it's not the same as just reading about it or hearing about it or like watching a video about it. Like you are mentally engaged with that narrative, with that story, and sort of like what it impresses upon you. So yeah, I think that's a great way to sort of approach those things.
Yeah, and like I feel like it's difficult to do that in like another setting. Like other settings, I feel like don't set up that narrative for you. Like I play D&D, it's like, oh yeah, cool fantasy, and like yeah, it really depends on the DM and their ability to craft a story. And like other settings too, like in Genesis, it's like just very bare bottom. Like it's really up to the GM to decide, like, you know, where that story goes. I feel like Lancer is a hard push on. You need to learn something from this game as you play it, as you shoot.
Yeah, it's so, yeah, honestly, like, oh man, I am where my personal Wallflower group is, we're at the end of it. We were playing through the playtest, and so, you know, we're at the tail end of it, and I gotta tell you, like, my heartstrings are pulled a little bit, man. Like, I'm a bit of a sentimental guy, so it's like that Wallflower is a little hard on me.
Yeah, I feel that. You talking Act 1 or Act, like all the acts? Because I know the pre-release is like kind of further on or something like that, or is it?
Oh, so we're at the end of Act 1, I should say.
Okay, gotcha.
We're not quite completely finished of it, but we've gone through, you know, all of the story essentially, right? And oh man, it's hard to be a good dude. It's hard, but you try, because that's what third comp is all about. It's giving that. I'm playing a Union soldier, so I'm very much of like, oh god, I need to clean this mess up kind of personality. It's like, ooh.
Yeah. I think for mine, I set my players up because like they're MP of Mfecane, and the MP have like, you know, various divisions or whatever, and some are more dedicated to Shaka's vision, and others aren't so much. But I set them up for like very anti-colonial sentiments, and so I'm really curious when they get to like these decision points what they're gonna do, because I am sure as hell gonna push them to the way that Mfecane would act in those situations. So
yeah. You know, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm always a fan of everybody else's games, because, you know, I don't know. I'm sometimes about the seat of my pants when like Calvin tells me a story. I can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of those. I got a bunch of when Lancer month finishes, because I don't know what the episode for the week after this one is gonna be, but I'm sure it'll be a Lancer thing. When Lancer month finishes, yeah, I can tell you all the exciting stuff that's happened over there.
Oh, nice, dope. Yeah, good.
Oh man, you got any questions for us?
Oh yeah, because I know Ramon probably has some stuff he wants to ask about Mfecane specifically, that I'm kind of wondering if we should save for a part 2 episode, where we can like dive into the supplement itself more. But yeah, I mean, do you have questions you want to ask us, maybe that we can, you know, fill out this episode with, and then maybe next week, if you're interested, we can come back and then just go more into the supplement itself, for people who might be interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. Are my mechs broken? I'm pretty sure they are.
Are your what?
Nah,
my mech.
I don't think so.
Everyone on Ukwa Station is like, yo, like Shaka, like those things are overpowered. I'm like, I guess.
I mean, maybe. I don't think so. I mean, they're not as overpowered as like any other homebrew mech. I think the homebrew mechs are probably at like a 1.2.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know, but you know, so like I think they're fine, because like, you could always just put more dudes on the battlefield and they just get wrecked. Like, it's like.
Ramon,
I think they're flavorful, you know, for sure.
Oh yeah. What do you think is the most overpowered mech in Lancer?
Ooh, shoot, that's hard. Because I think I'm pretty big brain about Lancer, but I'm not actually that big brain. I'm getting surprised all the time. I think it actually might be. I mean, it probably will be the Tokugawa. If I have to be honest with you, it's like some combination of Tokugawa plus What's the one? I want to say not the Swallowtail. What's the other one? The sniper mech from SSC.
Death's Head.
Death's Head. Yeah, some Tokugawa Death's Head. Something with like you stack on like 10 heat plus like the extra burn damage from that plus like what's it called? The NHP that applies the extra burn damage, and you could really just one-shot people at that point, right?
I think it is, or something like that. Yeah.
Amaterasu, yeah. You could definitely put so much dice on the board and be real rollable and crit and like max out that damage. Like that's probably the most strongest one. Yeah, honestly.
you need a Ramon or Calvin play a Zing, and then Ramon, tell me what you think.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry. You're right. You're right. It depends on the map. It depends if someone's in space, then the Zing.
Well, if you just have hard cover. If you have hard cover on the battlefield, it's like that shit can like go across the whole battlefield without spending any movement. I was like, that's some bullshit.
I saw it on Dragon Kids running the mech series.
Yeah,
he was like when he showed that off, and I was just like, oh damn. That's a mistake. Like,
yeah, it's really strong. It's really strong.
But probably okay. So I'm sorry. If you just want to put people into the ground, I think some sort of Tokugawa plus Death's Head thing will work. Yeah, Zang would be like pretty good. But also, in all honesty, it's probably the what's that Harrison Armory mech with the teleportation?
Sunzu. Sunzi, yeah.
Sunzi, yeah. The Sunzi is so useful. It will always be useful. It is so good with the cheapness of teleporting, right?
It is good for winning encounters. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's crazy good. It's crazy good of support, and no matter what, if anyone dips into it once, like it's like everything's good about it. Like that's probably the most actually powerful mech in the game because like everybody can use one of its abilities.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't think I've ever played or GM'd against the Sun Z, so I have to try that out. But
don't do escort missions with them. It's just like a big
So yeah, I'll try to stay below those benchmarks when I design these Mfecane mechs. I think I'm good. I think I'm below Sun Z Zing levels, but we'll see.
I think it's good. I mean, yeah. Shoot, man.
I'm just on the CompCon page with all the licenses right now, just trying to find what you two were talking about.
oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have to catch up, bro.
Yeah, I do apparently.
The game up. Yes, the game up, bro. I'll send you some hot chocolate so you can read up on these mechs on your in your off time.
I definitely have to. Because my thing was just like, well, I don't know everything about the game, so let me just focus on like being good at one thing. And what's one thing I haven't tried? Because I did some flying stuff before when we did some one shots. So it's like, okay, well, I'll just try to do some grappling stuff. But now I'm like,
you play at Blackbeard, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. Let me see what I can do with this. That's just different than what I normally play in what I've played before, and like I guess what I normally play in an RPG game, but. No, I gotta take in some of these tips when I'm editing this episode. I gotta make sure to make note of those mechs and see what I can squeeze into mine. Maybe
just make the most broken build you can find of 2 license levels of Tokugawa, 2 of Sun Z, and 2 of Zing, and then I don't know what you'll get, but you'll probably piss Ramon off, so that's good.
That is the main goal. Of
it's
being
called
a player.
One Witch. I honestly believe like the witch. One witch is like if you just put down the elite witch is the the destroyer of worlds. I'm pretty sure.
Like which I don't
awesome.
Use a lot of witches. Yeah, they're really mean.
Oh yeah, because they're really mean. I mean, I'm probably gonna at one point put my players up against like all witches because it'd be hilarious to watch them just kind of implode. But I'm an evil person, so that's why not recommended.
So we call it gunning. That would be brutal.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, no, I love that. Like, actually, the scariest NPC in the game is just somebody who can just hack you because it's just robots.
No, I think the spite might be the new scariest NPC though. That shit is like nasty. Yeah, it's really mean.
True. I haven't taken too much of a look at the I think it's Wallflower, right?
Yeah, yeah, Swallowfire, yeah. Like
Yeah.
it'll hit you and make you not be able to clear heat, which is like brutal. So yeah, it's pretty nasty.
Rough times. Calvin, don't you worry, it'll come for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I am
Yeah.
worried if you mean you're going to use it in our stream game, because that means you're going to use it against us.
Yes,
Definitely. Most
it.
definitely, man.
do it, do it.
Well, now I feel like I should be
Good.
concerned about that.
I'll probably give you fair warning, but I'm all about that.
Sure. But I mean, like, that is something else that I do like about the Lancer system, is that even if you throw this significant problem at us, if we have like a warning ahead of time, like, which is definitely something you've been doing in our stream game.
Totally. Yeah.
Like the mech building, like, because like that is the thing that I'm really into with Lancer. I've only sort of like skimmed the more narrative stuff, but I really like the concept of the character building, which I've talked about. Like, I'm sure I've mentioned it like at least once an episode whenever Lancer comes up. It's just like I really like how building characters works, because it's just, you can just go back and you can just like adapt things as you need to. And that's sometimes really difficult to do in other RPGs, where it's like you are on this set class, you are on this set path, you're good at like this one specific thing, and you have this one weakness, and you can try to find ways to sort of make up for it, but it's going to be really costly to you as a character when you can spend that time or that skill on other more useful things. But with Lancer, I feel like you can be good at pretty much everything. You might not be the best at everything, but you can be like that. Like at one point, we knew we were going to be facing some enemies that had like heavy armor, so we were all able to get like weapons that would pierce that armor. So like it wasn't just a situation where it's like, well, this person can hit those guys pretty well and I can't, so I'm just going to stand back here and do nothing the whole time. Like, we can all be effective.
Yeah, it's hard to build a bad mech.
I would argue Lancer's like a because it's like I was watching a lot of videos about deck building games, because that's what I do on my spare time. YouTube videos about games. Right, so Lancer to me is like a deck building system, right? Because you collect all these license levels, and it's just like you're just building out your portfolio of choices, right? Because then the constraints is like how much space you have on your mech, or how much mounts or system points or whatever to put in to make your combination work. And that's like I was just like, when I today when I was just like, I was working on my floors, I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Wow.
You work on your floors?
Yeah, I've actually I redid all my floors in my house. So
oh bro, you gotta pull out, bro. You gotta pull out. You're too deep in. You gotta pull out. You gotta pull out. Too deep in the Lancer.
Too deep in the Lancer. Thinking about it, I'm dreaming about it, man. Like I said last podcast, I can't believe this game. I can't believe I need this game in my life. I didn't know I needed it until I had it, and I'm so happy about it.
I agree with that. I
For
totally
sure.
agree with that.
Yeah, you are really into this game. So.
It's crazy. I'm a crazy.
I mean,
person.
why not, right? Like, why not? Like, I can see myself playing Lancer for the rest of my TTRPG like experiences. It'd be okay. I'd be fine with that. I don't think I have to dip into anything else.
Yeah, it'd be tough to go back to. I mean, I love Pathfinder, and it'd be tough to go back to playing Pathfinder and not steal a bunch of stuff or ideas from Lancer. I mean, the simple mechanic of accuracy and difficulty is so good. Like, oh my god, it's terribly good, and I love it so much.
I wish Lancer used advantage more though, and maybe like like how you re-roll the dice or whatever.
Yeah,
is that Pathfinder mechanic? Yeah.
I don't know if it's it's not a common rule in Pathfinder, at least that I've seen. There's like some specific situations where it'll tell you to roll a die and take the higher or lower of 2, but it's not like a common thing like in 5e. I don't know. Advantage was kind of the thing I liked from 5e, like the main thing mechanically I liked. But comparing it to accuracy, I kind of like accuracy a bit more. At least personally.
I threw a whole bunch of advantage into the field guide. I was like, oh yeah, you can just like reroll the die because you hit the optical. It sounds great.
Yeah, my thing with advantage is like it's very straightforward and simple, and like it's very like easy to understand. Like you're gonna do a bit better at this thing, so just roll twice to take the higher number. You're gonna be a bit worse at this thing, roll twice to take the lower one. And if you have different things that stack up, then you can like you might have a couple of good things and one bad thing, so you only get like normal advantage. My thing with that, though, I guess, especially coming off of Pathfinder, and sort of Mutants and Masterminds as well, where you can have like your +2 bonuses or your +5 bonuses. Part of me does like that there's some things that will be like, this will help you or hinder you a little bit, this will help you or hinder you a little bit more, so you get different numbers for that. Sort of what I find with accuracy is that it's a bit in between, in that you're not going to get like, you won't get like you don't have to decide at every point, well, this thing is worth 2 and this thing is worth a bonus of 5, but you do get like that bonus or detriment of 1 to 6. But as well, you can have multiple different effects on, like with advantage. So you can have like your 2 accuracies and your 1. What is the opposite of accuracy? Inaccuracy. Difficulty.
Difficulty. Difficulty, I think. Yeah.
So like you can put those on, and you don't have to decide, well, this is worth 2, this is worth 5. It's just like it's worth between 1 to 6, like everything else, and then you roll it and you get that bonus. That's sort of what I like about it. But I do see the advantage of just saying, here's some advantage, and it's just straightforward right away. Roll twice, take that number, and then move on. Not having to like roll a bunch of dice and then calculate all those.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like it's fun to count on all the accuracies and difficulties, because like it's like you can really set out like a 1 in a million shot. Like it makes it feel like this thing that you're doing is actually quite hard and kind of epic, because you're trying to take a shot at a dude who's like in like bunkered down, and like but then you have like the accuracy because of your training or whatever, and you can lay out the narrative of like all those bonuses and all those detriments and kind of just connect the line and then make the shot. So it's I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think actually it's accuracy as a mechanic is good too, because like Lancer tends to attract like very heady people, like very gamey, heady, like tactical people, and
I think they're called gigabrains. That's the scientific terminology. Is gigabrains.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. Thanks for enlightening me. Well, these quote unquote gigabrains, they will beat me every time. We got a couple on Uko Station, and they just demolish me every time. So I like accuracy because it's like less like a solid like, are you gonna get this bonus, because you can get this range of bonuses. So I guess it balances a curve in my favor, maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it's like you what it does, it shifts the instead of you minimax it, you always get like the minimum, they'll always get a +1, right? So it's like on the low end it's not that big of a deal. On the high end it's 6, but like the more accuracy they roll, the more likely they're just gonna get a 3. Right? Like or like they're more likely to roll, well, I guess maybe not, sorry, that's not how the math works, but they're more likely to get to the higher end of stuff because they can choose. But +6 isn't that crazy of a number. It's big enough to make a difference, but small enough where it's not just like +20 or something like that. It's not ridiculous. I like it. It's a good healthy number to
good healthy number.
Good round number.
Actually, I would actually like to ask, how do you feel, because you're now doing continuous narrative story, I guess, a little bit more with playing Wallflower, because I know that Uko Station was mostly just kind of one shots, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Right. So like, how do you reward your players now? I mean, I guess you're doing it with Wallflower with the directions, but like, how did you feel about that? Because that's my thing. I throw too much stuff at my players and see what sticks, right? So
how do I reward them in Uko Station or in Wallflower?
Either or. I just want to get your opinion on it.
Goodness, that's a good question. I think for Uko, let me see. I'm not a great GM. I'll just admit that. Like, some people think I'm good, but I don't think I'm that great because I'm so new to it, right? Like I've seen like other GMs that are like really good, and so I think my rationale for rewarding players maybe is like not great, right? Like on Uko Station, I think my main purpose of starting that campaign was like helping me to write the field guide, and so I didn't really care about rewarding the players. I was like, all right, well, great, thanks for helping me provide this like narrative material and RPing with me. That now I can like better think out the field guide. So I think in that sense, like I didn't really reward them really. Like there's like mana I gave them and stuff from like the Long Rim expansion, but that's about it. And then for our Wallflower campaign, I think that does require me to think a little bit more about how to reward players. And I think I'm a very narrative GM because the headiness of Lancer kind of gets to me sometimes, and so I like to reward players with self-gratifying or gratifying narrative and character development. So I think that's my biggest strategy, or that's what I'm trying to go for in Wallflower. So yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah, man. I'm a little weird. I just be like, here, take all this awesome nukes.
Oh,
just, I don't know what you're gonna do with these.
No.
Yeah,
I gave my players one time.
Quite often, my players will just be like,
Yeah.
and they'll just be like, nah, we don't need that.
Oh my god, man! Giving players stuff like in Lancer is like Lancer's already really hard to balance. It's like either it's really hard or way too easy. It's really hard to get like a just right encounter, and like I made the mistake of giving players like orbital bombardment, downtime reserves a couple times, and it just like ended the session. They just killed all my baddies. Oh,
yeah. To that.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kill sats will do that to people.
You gotta throw some stronger patties at them.
Yeah.
Something with a lot of armor who could just stand up to whatever the player's throw at it.
Oh
Or
my
hack
God.
it, I guess.
Hacking.
Hack. It's the best way. Chilling, man. If you ever got some cocky players, throw a bunch of witches at them, and they're gonna be like, "I'm so sorry."
I have this one player that taunts me all the time, like, "Oh, your NPCs suck, Shaka," and I'm like, "Oh, if I was an asshole, I would really ruin you, but I'm not."
Well, yeah. For us for the One with Dice Lancer campaign that we stream, we're all old time friends, so we're all really petty with each other all the time. So anytime somebody like is like having a good string of luck, like it gets personal, and we're like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait till you fuck up!" Like we're all gonna laugh at you. Like, we're bad people.
Because we're all used to each other, so.
Yeah. This makes it fun.
So we are at like an hour or so into the podcast, and we have a ton more stuff that I can tell we definitely can go on for like another hour or so, and I would love to do that if I didn't have to edit it, but unfortunately. So I mean, if you want to maybe hang out next weekend, we can talk some more, because I know there's definitely some stuff specifically about Mfecane that we can discuss and maybe go into that setting a bit more. I know we did talk about it a bit, but maybe go into some more specifics about it. If you'd be interested in doing that, and we can round out Lancer Week with a awesome finale of more Lancer or Lancer month, I should say.
Yeah, I'm honored. I like talking with you guys. You guys are cool, and I know we didn't talk too much about the Field Guide, but I'd be super down to like go into the details of it and stuff. So yeah, I'm super down for another roundup session.
Yeah, and we can definitely talk more about like representation in RPGs and in sci-fi specifically as well, which is something I think we could really get into. But I think we'll have to save that for next week, just so future Calvin isn't tired of editing and our listeners don't have a super long episode to go through.
Totally. No, I mean, I thank you guys. Yeah, this is good. It's good talking with you both.
Is there anything you want to say real quick before I go into our usual outro stuff? Or
I would
tell the people how to get it, how to get the Field Guide.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's definitely
because I will have some links below as well. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go to CompCon, which is the companion app for the Lancer RPG. Click on a button that says download LCPs and go to the community LCPs and scroll down and download the Field Guide to Mfecane. It'll take you to the itch page, and you'll read some semi well written narrative by me, and press the button and try my mechs out and tell me how broken they are. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll include the link to the itch page in the description below, as well as Twitter and CompCon links and everything like that.
Dope. Yeah. I'm excited to get feedback on it, so we'll see.
So if you want to check it out, just be sure to check out the description. I'll also link all the other Lancer supplements we were talking about, as well as the Coyote and Crow Kickstarter. Ooh. I'll post up a link to that as well. It looks like you can still get a late pledge in. So if people are interested in checking out that, because I got to mention, for sure we'll be doing that. And a link to the Ukua Station YouTube page as well for people to check out those episodes.
Yeah, baby.
And maybe our episodes as well. The playlist will be in there. And our usuals, our Twitter, our Facebook, and our website. I also, I'm going to shout out the USP channel, the Untold Stories Project channel, where they also like to focus on games that aren't D&D. Because I'm a castmate there on their superhero RPG Mutants and Masterminds games on Mondays that have been a whole lot of fun. Although last week my character tried to do something cool and it didn't work out, so I did get dunked on pretty hard, but it was still a fun episode. So I'm hoping I can make up for it in the future, though. Oh, it was super embarrassing, but
do better.
Yeah, basically.
No sympathy. Do better, Calvin.
Look, it wasn't my fault. The enemy rolled a really good save against my. I thought I had a cool bow and arrow attack, but they did really well. So.
Is it the gun one? I hope it's the gun one.
No, I don't have a arrow that shoots a gun.
Yeah, AK.
Maybe that is what I need instead of the archery guy with all the trick arrows. I'll just start carrying a gun around instead.
Yeah.
No, Calvin, you need to shoot an arrow that pops up. You just shoot an arrow that pops up. It's literally just a hand holding a gun, and it just like shoots somebody. Like that's what I want so desperately. Please do it. Do it for me.
I'll see if I can squeeze that in. But yeah, I'll have a link to their Twitch channel as well, where they play on Mondays, so you can see me there. Our episodes go up on Wednesdays. Tomorrow from when we're recording. But when listeners are listening to this, it'll be a few days away. But you can go back and check out the VOD. Anyone who wants to do that. And I think that covers about everything. If I think of something else, it'll be linked below.
Calvin, you're forgetting one thing.
Oh yeah, our tradition of me pretending to forget the outro of the show. So yeah, definitely we're gonna keep talking about Mfecane next week and just Lancer stuff in general. So until next week, just a quick reminder to everyone listening out there to keep on winning with dice. And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.